We're live. Okay.
Yay.
Um, Hi everyone that's watching, whether you are watching now or watching in the future, in Olam Haba, thank you for watching. I am Rabbi Andy, the Executive Director of the American Council for Judaism, and I am overjoyed to be here with my friends Binya and Xava from Shel Maala, a digital first, meaning in the cloud, primarily queer yeshiva, founded in 2020, aiming to be a radically irreverent, unapologetically gay yeshiva, accessible online 24/6. And so I want to start with you, each of you, and Chava, you're not muted, so we'll start with you, and then we'll have Binya talk about like how did you get here? How did you get A, like I actually don't even know how you two met, so I want to learn that. And then B, like how did you reach the point where you were like, this is the thing we got to do. We got to start Shomala.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. Also, sometimes I mute myself using my little mic switch, and
Oh,
that's a habit I've gotten into, but it's not proper Zoom etiquette. Um, so yes, I'll talk about how we met first because that's a quick and fun story. Once upon a time, many, many years ago, I was moving from the Pacific Northwest to Providence, Rhode Island, where I live now. And I was on the plane flying over, and I paid for the in-flight Wi-Fi to swipe on Tinder. And who should I swipe on but this vision of loveliness, Binya, my co-roche. And so when I got to Providence, we went on a few little dates, and it didn't turn out to be, a love shidduch in that way, but it turned out to be a yeshiva love shidduch. And so our friendship was maintained for years after that, and eventually we started this yeshiva together. But I personally um, come from a somewhat unusual Jewish background. My heritage is both Sephardi and Mizrahi, but my family is all conversos. So I grew up not actually knowing that I was Jewish until my teen years when my great grandmother told me on her literal deathbed that we were Jewish. Um, and after getting sort of excised from my family of birth when I came out as queer, I sort of started to think, oh, I kind of miss the faith. I grew up in a very Christian household, and so I missed the experience of faith and the experience of community that I got from my family. And so I thought, I remember being told about this thing about being Jewish, and I'm pretty sure they can't kick me out. So I'm gonna see what's up with that, and if they have anything to offer. And that was sort of the beginning of my long, slow journey into Judaism. So that's just a few things about me.
and you have smicha now. You're a rabbi now, right?
Yes, it's true. I
Yeah.
am a
So
rabbi
that
indeed.
came all the way through.
Yes, it
Yeah.
took a while to make it all the way, to the other side of the Jewish spectrum, I guess, from zero Jewish to 100 Jewish. But I've made it. Yeah, and it was I didn't always know that that was a track that I was going to be on. I didn't really start pursuing smicha until I had been sort of doing being a rabbi in the world for a while, sort of like
Mhm.
organizing community and teaching. And that's when I started to think, well, I might as well make it official. I might as well have the title to go with it.
Awesome. Benya, what about you? What's your story?
Yeah, so obviously the biggest moment of my life was when a Xava swiped right on me. But if you want some other details to kind of fill in like my character around that, I'm just like, a, a Jewish girl from Queens, New York, a dime a dozen, many such cases. And I grew up in a conservative shul, and I identified with being Jewish, was proud of it, grew up in a Jewish home in like a very multicultural, multilingual Jewish home. My dad is Ashkenazi from Argentina, and my mom is French Moroccan Sephardi. So like Judaism in a lot of different languages and a lot of different ways to practice. I'm a little United Nations baby, which was a joke I used to make, and then I would get told the United Nations is anti-Semitic, so I would,
Of course.
and little did they know where I would end up. And I loved, I'm very grateful for my upbringing, though the Judaism that I was given heavily indexed on Israel and Iran politics. Like that was almost every sermon that I at shul, every drosh was like, this week the parsha is Hazinu. The Iran deal is a direct threat. Yeah, and that's it. And there was no even connection to the parsha.
I'm familiar.
And so that's how I grew up. Then I went to a liberal American university, which succeeded in turning me gay, which was the point. Well,
What else are they for?
Yeah, exactly. The trans agenda got me in college. And the other thing that got me in college was the joyful Jewish agenda, much less talked about. But in school, there was an amazing Hillel that had an amazing kind of renewal service at Brown in Providence, where Xava and I met. And Rabbi Lex, who was like a big macher in that community. And it was like, wow, there are these people who are clapping and harmonizing and being loud and smiling while davening. What an amazing thing. And then we go eat, and then we go drink, and then we go party, and we have fun. And we're also very Jewish. And so that combination between like having a joyful Jewish community and coming out, that kind of came to its, what's apotheosis mean? It's like its high point.
Yeah, well, it's like when like
culmination.
two things come together and become
they came
better
to their
things, and they
came to their apotheosis at Svara, the queer yeshiva, which is like a genesis point for Shel Maala, definitely in so many ways. And I went to that on Lex's recommendation this summer after I graduated, and that's where I went to like a 5-day queer Talmud camp and fell immediately in love with Jewish study, which I hadn't really done up to that point, and haven't really looked back. So that was 10 years ago. So and I am not a rabbi, though I've been told that I am rabbi passing. So
yeah, I mean, I thought you were a rabbi when I met you. You had to correct me.
That's right.
So it's interesting in particular that Sfara was like a core thing for the two of you, because even with Sfara, you saw that there was a need for something else.
Yeah.
So what led you to decide like this is what we need to do? This is what the Jewish world needs. They need Shel Maala.
Well, it all started right before the pandemic in 2020. I was really sick with a chronic neurological disability that I have, sicker than I had ever been before. And I was stuck at home, just like many people, unbeknownst to them, were about to be. And so I was already feeling quite sort of like at my wit's end about what was my life going to be about. And then the pandemic started, everyone else started to be stuck at home, and people started doing online learning a lot more than they had been before. But there was a lot of sentiment in the disabled community that it was really exciting for these opportunities to come to existence, but people were worried that they would sort of evaporate when the pandemic came to an end. So I just thought, well, I'm already too sick to leave home, so I'll just start teaching with the intention that the home of my teaching will always be online, and then people won't really have to have that sense of anxiety. And so I taught one class and then another class, and Binya on that next class was like, what if we collaborated on this? And we taught a few more classes, and then we thought, what if this wasn't just a series of classes? What if it was a whole yeshiva that lived on the cloud? And it just sort of naturally snowballed from there. So I think that accessibility was really at the heart of it, but then it took the next, 5+ years to continue to figure out what our distinct place in the sort of Talmud ecosystem would be. But that first need that set us in motion.
Right. And I would say, like, I don't know if how many people on this YouTube that we are on are familiar fully with like what this queer Talmud revolution that we're in over this last several couple decades of diasporic Judaism that Svara really represents and is like the progenitor of in so many ways. But like, that camp, when I went to Svara's queer Talmud camp in like, for 5 days in 2016.
Can you explain what it was? There are probably people that have no
Yeah,
idea what that
exactly.
means.
So
Yeah.
so
Oh,
when
you're
I went
doing
to
it.
that,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. When I went to that camp, I was the reason why it changed my life is because it was this group of like 100 to I would never count Jews because it's forbidden in the Torah, but not 100 Jews that that gathered for 5 days, most of them queer, but not all of them, and and we just like dived into unvocalized Vilna Shas Talmud. So this is like the like, the like most pure pickled herring smelling whitefish, like, Jewish thing, and high octane Jewish thing where you're like reading in the original like Talmud, which to me I had never read before until that day, until that camp. And we did it. We figured out how to do it with all this like really radical horizontal pedagogy that Sfara has that allows people of beginner status and expert status to be in the same to the same space and learning together. Um, and uh, and we uncovered not only what the text meant, which was like barely even like a percentage of what we were really there for, but really what it meant to us and what it meant to us as people in this world. And so like it was like really it is really revolutionary because it's part of this whole upswell that's happening in our generation where in order to make Judaism meaningful to our modern lives, we don't run away from it and try to like dilute it so that it will be easier for the modern palate to take because we're embarrassed by it or it's not so relevant, but we want people to take a little bit, at least hopefully, like instead of going down that path, which is like a very common American Jewish path for a couple of centuries, like what we have instead is like we're going to go so deep into it until it becomes actually actively meaningful in its own self, and we're not actually like trying to hold less of it but always yearning for more. And so that overall feeling is intoxicating, revolutionary. And I think when I was looking at why we wanted to do Shel Maala, it was like, yes, deeply what Xava was sharing about the accessibility that led to like our specific formation, but also it's just like I wanted more of that in the world. And Svara does a really good job of taking its most precocious students like Xava and I, and giving us like the affirmation and the power to go and do the wild thing of thinking we could do it ourselves. And then they really empowered us both like through training us as teachers and also supporting us logistically to do that. And I think that just like wanting more of that is what I want to do in my life and help bring that into my life to tell people that like going deeper into Judaism is what is like an active good thing that you want to be doing in your life to make it more meaningful. And then we also, like Xava was alluding to, we got our own specific flavor on this type of teaching, and we started to teach in innovative and different ways than Svara was teaching and held different political positions and other things like that that also now differentiate us. But that was just the desire at the beginning, is more radical tradition.
Yeah. More Torah. Always more Torah.
Yeah.
Um, so in that beginning, period, what were some of the things that the rough spots you hit or the sharp, jagged edges you had to soften out as you were getting going that you've learned from?
Yeah, I think there were quite a few things. Some we could have never predicted, like when we started, if you can possibly remember such a time, it felt like Facebook groups were the social forum de rigueur, and I thought the Facebook group would be like the center of Shel Maala, and we just randomly started a Discord server just like as another channel of communication, and it turned out the opposite way. The Discord channel is now like our home, and the Facebook group is very underutilized because people just don't use Facebook so much anymore.
Very, very underutilized is a very political way of putting like the whatever, a gif of like a dust dust bowl, like
Right. Yeah, it is cobwebs over there.
yeah.
Um, but then there were other things like um learning how to manage a community, right, of learners who live on the internet. Because again, this may shock people, but people oftentimes don't behave as nicely on the internet as they might in person. And when you're in a Torah learning context discussing intimate and complicated topics, that can be a recipe for disaster. And so there was a lot to learn about how to make it clear that people should sort of behave better to each other in the yeshiva on the internet than they might behave to strangers on the internet. Um, and all
How'd you
kind.
do that?
Well, it took a lot of trial and error. We have a really beautiful set of communal norms in our Discord that starts off with a statement saying explicitly, we are a community of learners, not a community of strangers on the internet, and we expect better of you than you would treat a stranger on the internet. And we sort of go more into what that might look like approaching with curiosity rather than assumptions, so on and so forth. And it took a long time, but I think now it's come to a point where the Shel Maala community sort of self-replicates those norms that people have come to realize what the standard of behavior is in the yeshiva. And instead of us or mods having to come in from the outside to create it, people sort of co-create it with each other, which is very beautiful and feels like a very delicate living thing that we sort of more that we steward than that we like have created from the top down. But there's been plenty of very rough disagreements within the Shel Maala community and disagreements between students, disagreements about us as the Rosh Yeshivas. Especially I think taking a position as a anti-zionist yeshiva, not only do we receive lots of criticism, to be generous, from the outside, but there's also a lot of debate inside about whether our political position is rigorous enough or is up to certain people's standards or whether it plays out in the way that certain people would expect. And those conversations get heated as well. So it takes to keep the yeshiva going, I feel like it takes a really delicate touch, not just from us as the leaders of the yeshiva, but from everyone within the yeshiva. I don't think we could maintain that climate alone.
Yeah, moderating online communities is, yes, it is an art for sure. And it's pretty amazing that you all are able to make that happen. Um, like you were saying, the way you described it, I thought was very beautiful, as in like an organic living being itself that you have to nurture as opposed to like cobble together. That's great.
Big time.
Yeah.
That's the best. I realized we never even like fully actually just like introduced Shel Maala as a yeshiva, but like, you know, that's the most amazing thing we have is our Discord. It's like this is our digital version of the Beit Midrash. It's our house of study, and where people are learning and living like literally 20 we say 24/6 tongue in cheek, but not everybody observes Shabbos in the same way. But all the time on our servers, and then we also have our classes, and all the ways that we learn together. But really what we are is like a community of people that's dedicated to that positive vision of like a radical future for each of us individually and the tradition we're stewarding. It's pretty awesome.
So there might be people that don't know what Discord is, um,
Yeah, which
which
is, so if you have any kind of like organizational messaging app like Slack that you've ever been in, or even like a WhatsApp community where there are like several different types subsections within like that WhatsApp general chat, or if you just, yeah, it's just basically like a place where you can have your organization's Discord, like your organization's community chat, like your organization's Slack, and then you have different channels for different types of discussion in it. And that's basically it. And just with that kind of thing, you're able to generate, people discussing the weekly Parsha alongside people discussing the latest of what's happening in Palestine, alongside people sharing pictures of their sukkahs or their cats, or, doing high level Talmud study all at once. And that's pretty cool.
yeah, that's incredible. I mean, if it sounds like something, it sounds like something from sci-fi from the 90s. And you two have made it real. It's really incredible. Um,
Does it sound like the future of Jewish study with Shel Maala? Okay,
I would say it sounds like the present and future.
that's right.
The
Um,
once and future yeshiva.
yes. Um, so beyond the fact that it's incredibly accessible, people, as you said, can literally be doing this at any time in any place. You just have to have like Discord on your phone, and you can be studying Talmud with someone. What are the other um, kind of guiding principles that sets the tone of learning with Shel Maala apart, or really maybe not sets it apart, but
Yeah.
kind of colors the way that you all approach learning?
So I think what Xava was saying, like that we care about each other actively, that we're not just invisible people on the internet, is huge. Probably one of the biggest things that sets the vibe. That we're, when you introduce yourself on a server, we have volunteers whose job it is to like reach out and actually learn about who you are as a person, how you ended up with us, what are you interested in, can we help you find a chavruta, can we help you do this, and like we have a mutual aid channel, and like a processing channel for emotional needs and stuff like that, and we actually care about each other. That's the most important thing. The other things that make us who we are we generally um our vibe is raunchy of center, irreverent of center, campy of center, which definitely comes from like mother, like yeshiva. It comes from the yeshiva's moms of me and Xava, who are very campy as people, and who not only are like, sarcastic and like profane and sexual in various different ways and jokey in how we are, but we view that as like um yeah, a little eye rolly to say it's political, but also that it's like it's inherent to who we are. Like by being
Mhm.
the type of people, the type of learners, the type of trans women that we are, this is how we speak, and we don't want people to we don't think that professionalizing yourself, that making yourself more modest, talk more proper is needed or desired or even positive for interacting with Torah. And um there's definitely like a conservatizing push, not only within the general Jewish world, but even within different places within the queer Jewish world, which is beautiful, and many people like it, and many people like that. It can feel safer to some people to not have like a lot of sarcasm and jokes flying around all over the place, and that's just a beautiful thing. But it can also feel a lot safer and truer to people to have to campy babes, teaching them Talmud and making jokes the whole time. And we think that that's present within the Talmud, that's helps people learn better. And it's just a beautiful thing. We think Hashem created camp, and that it's a holy way to be. And then the last thing that I think sets us apart is not that our leftist politics don't stop at Palestine, is how I would put it. And our public leftist politics don't stop at Palestine, because I think there are a lot of kind of great, where there are organizations that are actively within our world. They're definitely within the right-wing Jewish world. There's active right-wing Jewish faces, but in the kind of liberally world that we both find ourselves in, ACJ and Shel Maala, there are actively Zionist places. There are places that like middle. There are places where everybody who works there is an anti-Zionist, but because of funding, they can't say a word. And then there are places like us, which actually like are able to, and not only are able to, but just do like publicly take these kind of stances, and therefore therefore our students are able to actually learn with the fullness of, of the world that they're in, that they don't have to like spend on that same phone that they're accessing our Discord on, where they're seeing Israel murder children. They don't have to pretend like they didn't see that in order to then learn Judaism. They actually take all of that into the virtual classroom and are able to learn a Judaism that we think would be utterly horrified and actively in rebellion against what calls itself Zionism today, and create a Jewish future that'll be free from it. So that's I think what sets us apart.
Sounds great. So you mentioned something that I think is, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I am going to anyway, which is, I think, really interesting, which is it's a calculus, right? Whether to be like clearly and vocally anti-Zionist, because getting funding becomes significantly more challenging when you do that. Um, Did you all discuss that at all? Was there ever a like question as to whether you wanted to, and then you came down on one? And can you explain how that process occurred?
Well, we actually operated for a few years before we made a public statement. And it wasn't that we had been scared before that. We just hadn't necessarily, it took a certain amount of time for the yeshiva to form. And then after it formed, it took a certain amount of time for us to decide what it would be. But it was just a few months before October 7th that we came out, so to speak, as an explicitly anti-Zionist yeshiva. And there's a lot of stuff that went into that decision. Our politics had both been anti-Zionist from the start, but we took a while to decide what our role in the space was going to be. And, some of that consideration was just like somebody needed to be the out there anti-Zionist yeshiva. And so it felt important to just be the ones to take that step. And also, I think we both hope that by being an anti-Zionist yeshiva, sort of persisting in this world of it being almost impossible to get funding, hopefully we'll push that Overton window, that window of acceptability a little further towards anti-Zionism, so that the next anti-Zionist yeshiva will have it that much easier than us. Because a big part of the creation of Shel Maala was also knowing that it's not healthy for any sort of ideological or spiritual ecosystem to only have one home. And Svara was that one home for quite a few years. And so I hope that we won't be the only center of anti-Zionist yeshiva. And we aren't. There are anti-Zionist yeshivas popping up all over these days. So I think there are a lot of ingredients that went into the decision.
And I guess beyond This is another question. I think I understand it, but I think that it might be helpful to articulate, which is like beyond the fact that people can show up with their full selves, being anti-Zionist, and like not be worried that like you're going to start off talking about Bava Metzia. You're going to say today is, you know, Daf 2b of Bava Metzia, and this is why the Iran deal is dangerous to us. You know what I mean? Like, um, is there an aspect of Talmud study that is lifted out um, from an anti-Zionist point of view? Like, if even if let's say you were ambiently not Zionist, you weren't explicitly anti-Zionist, do you think that there would be something lost in what would be possible in study?
If you are trying to understand the force of all life that created you and the entire universe, and you're not allowed to say that murdering 60,000 people is wrong, then how are you going to say anything at the end of the day? Like, obviously you can, and people do, and they have, and are Jewish, unfortunately, and embarrassingly for the future generations. Like, large sections of our Jewish world have just continued on with this. But like this, we're talking about the actions of our people within the wider world of which Hashem created everything, but also specifically in the land that she calls holy, in direct contradiction to like what seems to be the overarching morality of our text and its intentions and what it's supposed to elicit from human behavior in the world. And so just to like know all of that, to know everything that's happening and to be unable to say it will have chilling effects on the strength and fire of your Torah, no matter what you and how you end up doing. That's from like the avoiding that negative aspect and allowing you to again see what you see on your phone and come to our yeshiva and share and talk and include like wrap that into everything that you're going to be talking about and learning with. That's critical and improves the quality of our Torah learning by leaps and bounds, definitely. Though obviously and necessary to say that's not why we're not anti-Zionist to improve our Torah learning. We're anti-Zionist because we believe in Palestinian liberation. So Zeo. But the other like kind of things that come out of this is like that it really, a lot of the Talmud starts to make a lot more sense when you approach it from a wider kind of anti-nationalist diasporic perspective. That's really hard, maybe impossible. I'm open to talking with people of various kinds when you try to hold that alongside an active kind of, at least nationalist Zionism of what is known as just Zionism today.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at a document written by a subaltern people under an empire that was literally written in diaspora with like, texts that include in it that, yes, call the land itself holy, but also like, extol the virtues of the Babylonian Jewish community, even above those of the Palestinian Jewish community at the time, you're then able to really take that, like this is the Torah of the dispossessed, of the oppressed, of the diasporic, and weave that into all the politics that make you who you are today. It's really hard to hold that contradiction when you're like, I believe in the rabbis who were like anti-imperial, who literally suffered under the governments of Palestine and the empires of their day, but I also believe we should have our empire, and that because the rabbis and the Palestinians are infinitely more linked than the rabbis and Zionist society today and the IDF today and everything like this. So like, this just makes a lot more sense and really lets you flower in the depths of your Torah learning. And we've seen that happen. It's a beautiful thing. Our weekly Torah for Palestine classes, and being a prime example of how this happens, but like all of our shiurim and classes like have that prophetic voice that becomes unmuzzled because of our political openness on that stance.
And to iterate on that, I think it's I think that one of the struggles that anyone who becomes a serious student of the rabbis encounters, because we're a people so obsessed with interpretation and exegesis, is that you learn, or that you're forced to confront the fact that anyone can interpret anything anyway. For every one person that says the rabbis were clearly and obviously anti-imperialist, which I believe they were, there are 10 people who say the rabbis would have loved the state of Israel and it's all that they hoped for. And in a purely metaphysical sense, I don't necessarily think those people are wrong, because I think that part of the way that our tradition works is it allows for that interpretive process. But that interpretive process is a battle for what the morals of Judaism will be. When the rabbis interpreted the Torah, they weren't interested in sort of the philosophical abstract truth. They were interested in perpetuating their own vision of what the future of Judaism and future Jews should be via the interpretive process, and passing that all on to us. And we are all part of an ongoing lineage that continues to sort of fight for what the moral foundation of our people will be. And I think it's sort of incumbent upon us, as we become students of text, to fight for a future that is liberatory and anti-imperialist and anti-genocide and everything that Judaism should be. Because if we leave it alone, it won't just naturally be anti-imperialist in the future. It requires our engagement and our ideological and studious battle for what Judaism will be. And so I think that's part of the way that anti-Zionism sort of comes into all study that happens at the yeshiva.
It's fascinating because the way that you're describing using a broader anti-Zionist hermeneutic, which is really like an anti-imperial approach, because Zionism is a form of nationalism, imperialism, yada yada yada, right? Overlaps really directly with bringing a queer trans lens to the Talmud, I think. Um, can you talk about how those two things complement each other, and um, maybe describe if there is a full difference between the two, or if they are so interwoven because they come from such a similar place, that it's almost impossible to pull them apart?
I think to a certain extent, all oppressed communities are faced with the question that we are faced with every Passover, which is, does this story mean never again shall this happen to me, or never again shall this happen to anyone? And that applies to queer and trans folks as much as it does to Jews. I think existing as a queer and trans person in the world, you will experience your own marginalization. And some people's response to that is to grasp whatever means or power they can to prevent that from happening to themselves. And once that's taken care of, then that's all good. And other people's response to that is to realize that those marginalizations are all fundamentally alike, and that your own experience of danger and isolation should connect you to all other experiences of danger and isolation. Which is why I think these things are a natural fit, but why they're not a necessary fit, because obviously you can choose to answer any one of these sort of moral quandaries selfishly. But we just have to sort of continue to pursue the interconnected version of that response.
Yeah, I believe in that. And I believe in the kind of larger philosophical statement of Ariel Angel's like we need new Jewish institutions, and this kind of coming into ourselves that we're having within the radical Jewish movement and space, like general anti-Zionist, general queer, all these things, where it might be time for us to stop saying we are the anti-Zionist Jewish Student Union, but we are the Jewish Student Union, and actually holding the truth of the Torah in how we practice. So I'm a zealot for my cause. I do believe that the Judaism properly interpreted in whatever way you're talking about it. In I'm quoting here Rabbi Zalkind, who was a anarchist Orthodox Talmud translator into Yiddish, and in the last century in Britain, and he was like, Talmud properly interpreted is an anarcho-communist document. And I was like, yeah, that's so right, dude. And I'm with that, because I'm like, these are like, this is a, like, a liberation theology, to use that term within this context, in the way it can be used, born of our people's experience in diaspora, connected with our understanding of our texts and what existed before our diaspora, that as Xava was saying, like, was purposefully trying to create a different Jewish world than what it found, with an idea towards what it should look like. And I think that the values contained within our tradition, of multiple truths, multiple possibilities, of change being the only constant, of this world being beautiful, so not nihilistic, not obsessed with the rapture, as so many things that separate themselves from this world can be. This world is beautiful, this world is gorgeous, but it's not, the goal of us is not to politically control it with guns and with armies, but rather to live in it, enjoy it, and connect with the ethereal and the spiritual that infuses everything, in the terms, in the form of Hashem, and how we interact with her through study and halacha and Jewish life. And I think if you follow that, you end up very far away from heteronormativity, from cisnormativity, and from Zionism. And what you end up in is like a gay diaspora. And that's, I don't think it's a coincidence that that we have 1,000 students a year that come flocking to us, from all corners of Galus and all their queer glitteriness, because I think we're tapping into something actually just fundamentally Jewish, by teaching the way we do.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, Shel Maala refers to one of the many ways that our tradition talks about heaven. So, like, this ethereal realm. The rabbis described it as Yeshiva Shel Maala, the house of learning in the heavens. And I think one of these terms I've learned recently from the left is prefiguration, and this idea that you have to create the world you want to live in, and as best you can, in order to bring that about. And just listening to both of you speak, I can feel you creating Olam Haba. I can feel myself being pulled into it. It's incredible, and you are amazing.
Come to us, come to us. We're the siren on the rock in Olam Haba.
But except you just have like two huge masechtot in your hands.
Yeah, two huge masechtas. That's what I have.
Huge masectas. You know what they say about girls with big masectas.
Hmm. Lots of Torah.
Okay.
All right. So we're gonna do a little speed round, just to get a little bit more of a flavor of Shel Maala, and then we're gonna open up to some questions from the folks that are here on the Zoom. So, folks that are here on the Zoom, if you have questions, get them prepared. I love it. I'm going to say this. I love it when someone writes down a question before they ask it, so that it doesn't become a statement very long statement that then eventually maybe ends in a question. So if you want to ask a question, please try to write down the phrasing, and then I'll invite you to. We'll let you come on camera and ask a question and all of that. But first, um, Rahava and Binya, and I'll start with Binya this time. Um, a text you're obsessed with this month.
With the Parsha Breshit. Why? Because I just realized that light and when I was studying with my friend yesterday, light and dark were created, and then the sun and the moon were created afterwards. But what does that mean? Like, how does the sun define the light and the day? But the light and the day already existed. But what the sun does is it is a way for the light above to transmit below. It's the way for the heavens to reach the earth in light form, and that's what Torah is. It's the way for the truth of heaven to reach the earth in revelatory form. So I'm just freaking out about Breshit. Gonna keep studying it again.
Have you heard the hidden light? It's Or Hanistar, this metaphysical Kabbalistic tradition?
Like that the beginning, the first light is hidden and only available to the tzaddikim.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a ring light. I don't have the Or Hanistar, but maybe the ring light
Ring
gives me a
light.
little
Yes,
taste of it.
the technological revolution makes us all tzaddikim.
That's
Uh,
right.
Xava, what about you? Text you're obsessed with right now.
I am currently obsessed with just a lot of the stuff from Avodah Zarah, which was something that we just finished in the Daf Yomi cycle, which is such an interesting masechet because it comes off very sort of like almost xenophobic because it's a lot about criticizing a lot about sort of like the danger of non-Jews interacting with Jews, but it's also exploring all the ways that we clearly did interact with non-Jews.
Mhm.
I'm thinking a lot about this passage towards the end of Avodah Zarah, talking about if you find a vessel, a piece of pottery, what images on it are forbidden to you. If there's a dragons fit a huge part of Avodah Zarah is what's up with dragons, and human beings and hands and sheep and all kinds of creatures, which is all very fun because it's very fantastical, but it's also really fun because it is just a sort of secret back window into the ways in which the lives of our ancestors were sort of a lot more complicated and intertangled with the lives of their neighbors than we like to admit from the pulpit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that I think to me that fact of history is one of the core things that is desperately needed to be like lifted out in this moment to fight off this kind of xenophobic, nationalistic stuff that has been accumulated around the Jewish community. Is like, no, like forever we have lived with other people and taken on some of their stuff, and they've taken on some of our stuff. And yeah, no, I love it. I did one of the independent studies we organized while I was at HUC was on Masechet Avodah Zarah, and it was great. It's an uh, incredible text. Um, okay, starting with Binya or Chava this time. What is a practice you wish everyone who's interested in Judaism tried at least once?
Oh, that's a good question. This is going to be a quite controversial answer because I mean, the answer is some kind of meditation. I personally spent many years as a quite serious student of Zen Buddhism, and so that continues to be my practice to this day. But I think that cultivating the ability to be with yourself and with your thoughts in a present and compassionate manner makes you a better student and a better person. It makes you more able to be present with your chavruta, your study buddy, and it makes you more able to be present with people who disagree with you virulently on the internet and in real life. I think cultivating both the compassion for self and compassion for other that can come from meditation is severely underrated. amongst Jews. And there's many Jewish ways to do it. If I had to put it in a Jewish way, I would say do hitbodedut, do walking and talking with God spontaneously.
Beautiful. Thank you.
And
Binya.
I think there are many things you should do before this in terms of to get connected. To get connected with Judaism as a totally new person. But if you've done some Judaism for a while and you like are looking for another step up, I also am. My thing is going to be on the Musari, like personal development front. Try to not do Loshen Hara, like meaning like I think especially in the gay Western, secular, whatever world that we find ourselves in, like really ruthless takedowns and gossip are like so central to like our way of being. And I think that they can have a really toxic effect on how you move through the world. And it's really hard to limit it. I see this in my life all the time where you're like, yeah, that person really deserves it. And, F them and whatever, and blah, blah, blah. It's hard to immediately turn off that spout and not let it go off into your loved ones and your relationship to your tradition and yourself. So I don't think we have to totally. I'm very sympathetic to the idea that gossip is what they call news, and the reason that they hate it is because it's the way women could talk to each other. I'm very sympathetic to that whole reread, but I also think that the rabbi said that lashon hara, that evil speech, is equivalent to shedding blood for a reason. They didn't say that for nothing, and I think it's because God created the world through speech, which is shout out to Breshit again. And we recreate the world every day through our speech and deciding what speech feels holy and irreverent versus like needlessly caustic is I think something that that it can feel really beautiful to like be like, oh, I could share this fact about somebody, but I'm actually just not, and I'm gonna hold it, and it's beautiful, and we'll talk about something else, and
Yeah.
I think it's really nice.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you both picked something about being mindful about how you are in the world, because I do think that is the core of Judaism. Um, all right. Anyone here on the Zoom that wants to ask a question, feel free to come off video and mute and go for it. Whoever comes off video first gets to go first. All right, Joseph has one. I can't see you, but I can tell you've come off.
Yeah,
There you
there we
are.
go.
Yay. Hi, Joseph.
There's a little bit of a delay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, well, first I just want to say thank you both for sharing what you're doing. It's really inspiring, and both the kind of the details and like the specifics, obviously, but also just the energy you're bringing to it. It's really, really wonderful. So my question is kind of building off of that. Is anyone at the yeshiva writing midrash or otherwise documenting ideas, commentary, learnings, prophecies, stories, etc.? Just because it's like, because I'm doing my own Torah study, and maybe in some of those like tough parts and parshas of like Bamidbar where it feels really like, what should I make of this? It would be really lovely to read some awesome like queer and trans anti-zionist commentary on some of those parshas. So that's my question.
We really do need to write a Torah commentary, but I'm having trouble editing like the one article Xava and I are trying to write right now. So I'm being a little bit of a bottleneck. But I mean, we do put out drashot twice a month, and they don't always touch directly on the parsha, but they sometimes are relevant. So we are putting out Torah content, and we're learning in our class, but unfortunately that's not like our main wheelhouse now. But this is a good push, and you're a good little angel being like, Shel Maala should get more serious about like any Jewish movement worth its salt puts out a new commentary and or translation or something of the Torah or whatever. And so I think we should be actively thinking about that.
I will say this is not exactly what I think you were asking for, but of recently, a Shel Maala Jews of Color Jewish library was created within the Discord server that has a vast array of resources from all over the Jewish world. That I'm sure some of what's in there would be helpful in one's Torah study journey. So it's definitely worth checking out.
And what I would say is, if you're looking for weekly Torah commentary that is radical, anti-Zionist, and sometimes queer, Jewish Currents's weekly drash, you can sign up for them, and the Halachic Left's weekly drash, which I've written for a few times. So those are like lefty weekly drasha.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Anyone else have any questions? Any questions for the two Geonot?
Oh, you flatter.
My dog came in to visit. So it doesn't sound like it, which is fine. Let's end on you sharing whatever you want to share. If there's anything we haven't talked about yet, if there's anything you want to make sure everybody learns and hears about Shel Maala or about you, let's do it.
Great. So I'll start, Xava. Whatever I don't hit, you fill in, okay? So here's what Shel Maala looks like. We've talked about it in the abstract, but here's what it actually is. It's a Discord which you can join. All these links and everything I'm going to be referencing, you can check out on our website, shelmaala.com, MAALA, SHELMAALA, or Shel Maala Yeshiva, at Shel Maala Yeshiva on Instagram. So check all that out. But we're a Discord, we're an online community. Come learn. We have 3 weekly or near weekly classes where we do Torah for Palestine every week, where we learn Torah for the liberation of Palestine. We have every other week an advanced Chabura. So if you're an advanced student and want to learn Talmud in the original without many guardrails, come learn with me. And then we have Mishnah and Chill, like Netflix and Chill, but it's a bunch of random Mishnahs that you can learn very low stakes. We have these weekly classes that are online that are coming up soon. One of the upcoming ones is going to be with ACJ, which is really exciting, about covenants and Judaism. So you can keep up with that, and joining our mailing list is like the best way to connect with that. And we also like put out this online content on our Instagram. Like we have like how to do Lag BaOmer at home and Tu B'Shvat, a bunch of different things. And we have these drashot and stuff like that. So there's all that. And then the big thing that's coming up now is we have our next tour. So we do these tours around to radical Jewish communities around the world, from Portland to London and places in between so far. And we're doing our East Coast tour, which is New Haven, Boston, Northampton, Philly, Baltimore. So if you're in or near any of those places, we learn in person, we daven in person, we make community in person, and you should come hang with us. And everything we do is fully pay what you can, unless it's like one of our partners is inviting us and setting the price. But everything we control is $0 and up, and we really believe in that. So come do that. And then the best way to support us, if you are at all inspired about supporting this Jewish future, is to become a member. We have to double our membership base by the end of the year to really keep steady and to keep surviving and hopefully thriving. And that's because we can't get money from other traditional sources that Jewish institutions often get because of our political stances. But if you join for $1 a month, you get an extra piece of Torah a month. And if you join for a little more than that, you get even our suggested pricing becomes less for you, and you get free merch and like behind the scenes videos and a bunch of other cool stuff. So becoming a monthly member for $1 or more a month is the best way to do that. And that's at Shel Maala join, bit.ly/Shel Maala join. Anything from that I missed, Xava?
No, nothing you missed. I'll give the quickest of answers to Joseph's question about the symbolism of our logo, which was created for us by the wonderful Liam Davis, which is just to say that the pomegranate is the primary symbol. It's often a symbol of mitzvahs because it's said to contain 613 seeds, and is also associated with Rabbi Yochanan, who we read as a trans feminine transcestor of the yeshiva. So that's the 2-second answer.
And then can I do one more 2-second thing, Rabbi? Okay. The one last 2-second thing is separate from Shel Maala, separate from everything. We are in a dire crisis moment in the world and in our people. Fascism locally, Zionism run amok in Palestine, and everything terrible in between. You have a beautiful tradition. We hope we can be a source of connecting you to that and strengthening you in that with us. But we know that we are just one small part of a burgeoning ecosystem of people who are all hearing the same prophetic call go through the air and are just like the ACJ, like coming together to like make this new Judaism. But it can only happen with everybody listening on YouTube and in this Zoom room and everywhere that we are sharing this message. So no matter what, just like know that your ancestors are with you, that they would be horrified by everything that's going on, but not only they would be horrified, they have a vision for a more beautiful future that you can call on. You don't have to be alone. You can call on millennia of learnings and traditions and wisdom and ancestors and text. And that's the beautiful thing about being Jewish. And hopefully we can change the direction that this world is going in and move it towards a better one through our efforts in our community and learning and action. So that's the last thing I wanted to say.
Can you hear us on? Thank you. A beautiful, beautiful way to end. Thank you both for being with us tonight. Thank you for everything you do to build that world that you're envisioning, that we're envisioning together. And I'll see you at the yeshiva. I don't know about everybody else, but like I I now feel remiss in having not already been a member, and I'm going to go and immediately become a member once we get off. So I hope that other people feel that way too, because of how incredibly inspiring you both are. I love the vision you're putting into the world, and it is making it a better place. So once again, thank you, thank you, thank you, and I'll see you both soon.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Andy. Love to
Bye.
y'all.